Well, hello everybody. Not doing too many videos recently, but just thought I'd cover this one. Apologies if it goes out of focus. I'm just using my mobile phone for this one. Now then, this is my quite ancient Dyson DC44. Now, I'd followed all the guidelines about checking the air paths were clear and the filter was clean and everything else, no blockages whatsoever, and yet this thing was still cutting out for no explorable reason. So what I thought I'd do is I would take a look inside it. Now, these things are definitely not designed for people to service themselves, but I think I might have found the answer. Now then, you'll notice that there's quite a bit of collateral damage on the side of my Dyson. That's because I had to get a narrow screwdriver in to basically leave around this cover. Okay, let me just get it into focus. You can see that. You notice that there's a lip almost the whole of the way round the cover. Right, okay. So you leave that open, having obviously removed the battery screw. And what you get is you get access to this circuit board. Now, I did take this completely to pieces, stripped it out entirely. Now, in order to do that, what you need to do is disconnect the connector inside there, which will give you access to this part of the cleaner. That plastic liner then comes out, and if you really want to take the LED out, you have to push that in because it acts as a tab to hold the LED and the circuit board in. I wouldn't bother, to be perfectly honest. When I opened this cover, this whole area, this circuit board, was covered in thick dust. At some stage it had been used to suck up brick dust or plaster dust without a filter on, I think. So this whole circuit board and quite a lot of the coils in here were covered in dust. Now, this thing does heat up when it's being used, and I measured 31 centigrade. Let's see here actually. Ambient is 22. Let's have a look. 28 still, and I've not run this for 5 minutes. Somewhere on that board is a little sensor that says this motor is overheating, and it clicks off. Now, if this thing is absolutely coated with dust, the heat dissipation off that sensor will be seriously compromised. So what will happen is it will cut out prematurely. Now, this used to run for a few minutes and stop, and it just used to cut out immediately when it was on high power. Now, I got bored, to be honest, waiting for it to cut out when it's being run usually, and it did cut out on high power after, as I'd say, a reasonable time. So you notice here, let's get this in focus, there are 2 screw holes. If you take those 2 screws out, that releases the circuit board. If you want to take the whole thing out, the motor is held in by friction, and it's held in friction in the cylinder inside this rubber insulator, which must be for sound dampening. If you turn it over, you can see the motor blade inside there. Hang on. You can put a screwdriver in there and gently lever up the outside of the motor ring. to get it out of this armature, out of this plastic cylinder. I should have really done this in reverse order. I do apologise. But anyway, I don't think this is fastened in properly, so just excuse me a second. Yeah, this is quite happily sliding out. So I took the whole thing out. When you pull the motor out, you'll notice it's actually connected to the circuit board inside the handle here. If you've got a soldering iron handy and you're happy to do it, what you might find is that you can untag these two thick wires. Because once those two thick wires are untagged and the connectors are undone, the motor can be taken away and do with what you like. I kept it connected, so as it came out, it went out and around, so you didn't put too much tension on those two wires. When I took this out, the whole of the inside was coated with plaster dust. Right, so what I did to clean it out was I used industrial solvent degreaser that you can buy from somewhere like Screwfix for £6 a tin, and just sprayed it liberally all over it and left it to drain out on some kitchen paper on the sink. Only when I was 100% sure that there was no residual solvent on there was I happy to actually give it another go. But you could see visibly that you could see the individual components on this board, whereas before it was caked with this layer of plaster. And I think that's what was actually the root cause of why it was cutting out, was because whatever component on here was monitoring the temperature couldn't dissipate heat, so it was prematurely triggering. Anyway, appreciate your feedback on this one. Took a while to find out what the difficulty was, but I think I've sorted it out now. Thank you.